Art the Clown is one fucked up dude. Hey guys, and thank you for joining me today. I want to talk about Terrifier 2.
Ask me what I do. I'll do it all for you. Ask me what I do. I'll do it all for you.
Directed by Damien Leon, Terrifier 2 comes in at 2.5 hours long. And with that hefty length, it's still quite worth the watch, I'm here to tell you. The original Terrifier film cost $100,000 to make. Damien Leon started a Kickstarter for Terrifier 2 where he was actually able to raise an additional $150,000. And the good news is you actually see it in this movie. You see where that $150,000 went. This was a way bigger production than the first Terrifier movie from 2016, and from the quality of the film itself, meaning the cameras used, to the effects, to the practical effects used in this movie, which the practical effects is something I cannot give enough credit for. It was so good. I mean, one thing that I see right now is that we're having a renaissance of the 1980s and 1980s slasher specifically, and that is a great thing to see right now. The 80s are back, and they're here to enjoy again. This film actually stopped shooting when the pandemic started, and that actually gave the director time to slow down, reanalyze his movie, reinvest time since they couldn't be together into making these kills longer, more horrifying, more gruesome, and just so fucking disgusting. And I mean, ultimately, that's what we all watch horror movies for, right? Especially these kinds of slasher films, because we want to see something that's fucking disgusting. This one had a way deeper meaning than the original story. The original Terrifier was just a quick gore movie. It was fucking disgusting. It showed kills. It brought back to the original slashers. It brought back to maybe what the early 80s slasher films would. Well, at least that's what I think of. What 80s slasher films or early 80s slasher films were like. Moving on to Terrifier 2, this is more like the late 80s where things got extremely high productions and got extremely disgusting. And that just makes me think of things like Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, just think about the mid 80s to late 80s, 87, 88, or 88 and 89 when those Nightmare on Elm Streets 2 and 3 came out. Or 3 and 4, was it? I'm getting old. This movie tries to introduce a heartfelt family dynamic, and that family dynamic falls apart a little bit, in my opinion, when it comes to the brother sister relationship. I mean, the sister in this movie, she's amazing. The main character of the movie, she did a great job when acting with any other character on the screen, but for some reason, when it came to the relationship with the little brother, it just felt a little off to me, and the acting was just not on par with what I would want in a movie. But still, I give them a lot of credit. They made it very entertaining to still to watch. You know, their dynamic. It felt very I guess I want to say heartfelt, but at the same time, it had a deep meaning, their relationship, and that made them effective characters in that sense. It just falls back to the acting, and maybe that falls a little bit more on the little brother's end. But I feel like the acting on when it came to their dynamic was just a little bit off. But still, the family dynamic that this tries to bring in, compared to the first Terrifier movie, was actually really cool. It added a lot more to the story. It tried giving it a deeper meaning, and it tried giving this movie a better background. Now, shout out to that young man in the movie, the one that plays the younger brother. I know he's a fellow YouTuber and he has a huge following. The little guy actually did a great job. And when it comes to his channel, which I've checked out, he makes good content. However, when it came to acting in this one, I think the little dude just lacked a little bit. But let me tell you something. He's definitely somebody who can learn. He's a billion times better than anything I could ever do when it comes to acting. I'm sure I wouldn't even be able to hold up or want to do that, I think. So he's a brave little man, but his dynamic was just what felt a little bit off for me compared to the rest of the acting in this movie. Now, the lady that plays the mother in this movie was a truly effective character. You felt that she cared for her children. Now, to go back to the kills in this movie, Damien Leon is an interesting director. He really likes taking the time to stretch out his kills in a movie. And when it comes to a slasher movie and what most of us slasher fans are trying to watch when it comes to these movies, I think he has a very, very good idea of what we want to see. There were a lot of practical effects in this movie that were just amazing. I mean, most movies nowadays, we all know, just use CGI, and it seems like this movie had a good mixture of CGI, but mainly practical effects that just made it that more interesting to me. I'm not sure how much of this budget went into the practical effects, but I can tell you once again, going back to the what the budget was used for in this movie, it was obviously used very intelligently by Damien Leon. Again, the quality of this movie compared to the first one is just amazing. Terrifier 2 picks up where the last movie left off. And without getting into any spoilers, it literally starts back up on the same night. You'll see a small gap after that first original night where the first movie ends. And it just makes the movie a little bit scarier in the aspect. Spoiler alert for the first Terrifier movie. At the end of the first Terrifier movie, Art actually is killed off, or we believe he's killed off, only to have his body taken to the morgue, wake up, and start wreaking havoc all over again. Another one of the things in this movie that actually stood out to me quite a bit was how the characters were so real in some senses, especially the main character. I remember Sierra at some point in the movie, mixing her medication with alcohol very heavily and her friend dosing her with some Molly. And it was just an extremely interesting situation to see on a movie nowadays, where there's this mixture and this concoction of chemicals inside of a person, affecting them in such a fucking horrifying night. While my thoughts on Terrifier 2 are overwhelmingly positive, there were some issues I had with the movie. The movie does have quite a few plot holes in it, but if you can actually go ahead and look past those tiny plot holes, which if you were to create the thoughts, and let's pull back a little there, if you were to create those thoughts in your own head of how those plot holes can actually be somewhat of a reality, it'll make sense. But this movie doesn't go without its imperfections, and there are quite a few little things that fall through the gaps here, but nothing that takes away from it being the slasher film that it's out here to be. One of my favorite scenes in this movie is when Sierra has a night terror when she originally sees Art. And we've seen this in the commercials for Terrifier 2, where she's at some sort of... It almost looks like a play-along show or a sing-along show where Art the Clown is actually the main host. And this scene on its own is extremely twisted. The fact that they go into night terrors in this scene is something that really stood out to me, again, just from somebody who suffers from horrible nightmares all the time. It brought a cool Nightmare on Elm Street vibe back into my mind. And again, like I'm saying, this film is very strong when it comes to this feeling of this 1980s renaissance of horror movies. This movie's for 80 slasher fans. I mean, if you're into the whole 80 slashers things, if you like Jason Voorhees, if you like Michael Myers, if you like Freddy Krueger, any of these 80 slasher flicks, you're gonna love this. I mean, this is very interesting, and the cooler part is that it actually takes the gruesome level of what horror is to another level. And when I mean another level, I mean another level. They take their time on every single kill in this movie to make you feel as uncomfortable as possible. Terrifier 2 is only playing in select theaters. I think it was originally only meant to play for a weekend, but I was actually extremely lucky to catch a viewing of this last night with my wife. I actually think there's still time to go on to your AMC or your Regal apps and try to see if there's still a couple viewings in the next couple of days. Guys, this is a good one. Overall, when it comes to movie, I'm going to go ahead and give this film 4 out of 5 stars. And the reason I'm going to give it such a high rating is because it had such an extremely low budget, in my opinion. And this director was able to really take every penny and make it useful. Mad props to anyone who can do that. I mean, we hear movies costing in the hundreds of millions of dollars nowadays and don't entertain us nowhere as close as this entertained me personally. So guys, thank you for taking time and just watching this video and seeing my thoughts on Terrifier 2. I recommend you go catch it in the movies if you can. This is definitely one that's worth catching on the big screen. If you like this kind of content, it means a lot that you go ahead and hit that like button down below for me. Hit that subscription button. And if you're really a friend of the channel, hit that bell notification button. Thank you guys so much for spending time with me today. Thank you. And I almost forgot to tell you guys, remember, always look up. Take care, everyone.